Um, Grew up in Zachary, Louisiana.
Okay.
15 minutes from campus, LSU's campus. About 5 minutes from where Dexter Dennis is from, Baker, Louisiana.
You and I know Solomon and Dexter, a little trash talking about your high schools. Who had the best high school?
Well, if you let them tell it, they're going to say them. But out of us three, Zachary High School is the best. Carver's the second best. And Baker, where Dexter went, they've never been good. So I would say his is last. But when Solo was at Carver High School, they're really good. Number one team in the state. So we have that beef and the talk back and forth, and then Dexter get in and say, well, him by himself, he was good. Even though his high school team wasn't good, he was good. So he always has that conversation. But I would say Zachary was powerhouse.
Speaking of conversations, have y'all felt the need to have any with your players? Any concern at all that they look at the plight that LSU is in and think, okay, well, we can just go there and win this one?
We've had conversations about it and talked about it. But as you know, a couple of us was in this situation last season. And so we're not above anybody. And so they're still playing hard. Non-conference, they're 11-1. They beat Arkansas to start the league. And it's the same guys out there. And when you watch those guys play, they never give up. And so, letting our guys know that. But we have a good group of guys that aren't really looking at it as, hey, they're struggling right now. We're going to take advantage of that. We have a good group of guys that's locked in. Our team is much older now. And so we have older guys that's talking and saying, hey, we were that last season, 8 games in a row, losing streak. And so, like I said, but as you watch LSU, they haven't given up. They played hard against Alabama, was in the game against Mississippi State after starting 0-10 at the beginning of the game. And so they still have guys that's playing hard and trying to play together.
Buzz has talked frequently about y'all's ability to have this as a staff, a good game plan through this conference play. Is there something about this group of guys this year that it's easier to game plan, to be a little bit more complex in the game plans than maybe the previous years that y'all are here?
I would say this group of guys, like I just said to Olin, is they're older. And so we have guys that understand the magnitude of each game. And so film sessions are more fun now because they understand I have to lock in right now and learn what we need to do in between the lines. And then another thing, as you know, Travis, that helps us is competition. And we have a lot of good players on this team. And so guys are competing. And the way that you separate yourself is you learn the game plan and the scheme the fastest. That way you can stay on the floor the longest. And so we have a good group of guys that lock in and film, that try to learn it, and they hold each other accountable. And so Coach Buzz always says he wants the best teams are player-led teams. And this team is a player-led team where we give them the game plan and the schemes in the film room, and they go out on the floor in between the lines and apply it.
I know without getting too much into specifics, but is there something as a coaching staff this season that has come together, locked in, that y'all have been able to produce some game plans that have been so successful?
I would say the biggest part is the players. Are we doing the same thing scheme-wise that we did last year? No, we've changed some things here and there. We have. Have we changed some things since non-conference? Yeah. We changed game by game our scheme. But I have to give the credit to the players for taking the scheme and applying it to the floor.
I'll ask Tyrese this in a minute, but as a coach, do you sense that going to play LSU means anything more for your guys who are from Louisiana, or is it just another basketball game on an 18-game schedule?
Yeah, good question. I would say it's just another basketball game. I would say the biggest part and what our guys from Louisiana gives more energy to is the fact that they get a chance to see their families and their families get a chance to see them. I would say they give more energy to that. But when it comes to the competition on the floor, it's another road game and another opportunity for us to compete against somebody else on the floor. And it's another opportunity for us to come together away from Reed and kind of show what we can do as a group, as a unit, as a team. But I wouldn't say that those Louisiana guys go into it saying, hey, I got to get this one. This one's bigger. No, I think they see it as a game.
I think Buzz had mentioned, I think maybe it was Arkansas, I think at halftime, you kind of said, you guys are difficult to coach because y'all already know the deal. Y'all already know what I'm going to say and what y'all need to do. Well, why do you think that is?
It goes back to what I said earlier. They're older group of guys. The pieces that we added to the guys that return for us. And it's a player-led team. We give these guys the scheme. We talk to them defensively, offensively. Here's what our opponent does great. Here's how we're going to try to take them out of that. And they take that lesson we give them, take notes in film session and go on the floor and apply it. Now, yeah, there's times where we have to correct them. No player on the floor is trying to make a mistake. And so when they make mistakes, we correct them. But most of the time they correct themselves. They're player led. And so that's why I would say Coach said at halftime of the Arkansas game, they're hard to coach, because when you walk into the locker room at halftime and you're down at Arkansas, amongst all the things that we went through before getting to that game, those guys in there are saying things that Coach Buzz would say, that I would say, that Coach Lau would say. And so really we're walking in there to say this, and I'm like, oh crap, he said it already. I don't have anything to say. And so that's why Coach was like, they're hard to coach because they know what to do. And they're not, trying to make mistakes, but they hold each other accountable.
Coach, I know you've had a few blowout wins, in this nice stretch here, but some of these games that come down to the wire, when you haven't played your best for, I don't know, a half or, whatever it's the time period, why do you think this team is able to finish games and close out strong?
Yeah, I think the relationship that they have with one another. I also think, like I just said, the accountability that they hold amongst one another. When the game gets closer, most teams, they separate. Our team get closer together. And you will see it a lot of games. We're down, we're struggling, we can be up. And somebody calls a timeout, one of our players might sit in Coach Buzz's seat and talk to the group. And he's okay with that because they're a player-led team. And I would say they come closer together in those close games instead of separating apart or trying to be, I'm doing this, you need to pass me the ball, all that. They're not getting into all of that. They know what they need to do to win, and they're trying to do that.
Going back to your time in Louisiana, I think I read your start was for Buzz at the University of New Orleans. I think you were a student when you started working for him. What was that experience like? What do you kind of remember about that?
Yeah, good experience. I knew Coach Clark. He was an assistant on Coach Buzz's staff. I met Coach Clark in Oklahoma. I was with the New Orleans Hornets, which is the Pelicans now at that time, and we were out in Oklahoma, and I met him, and he asked me to come and help out. And so I went in and met Coach Buzz, and I read up on Coach Buzz and saw that he was a student manager as well. So I thought it was cool to go in there and work for him and learn from somebody that started as a student manager and that was now a head coach. And I would say my time at the University of New Orleans, my time at Marquette, Virginia Tech, and now here with him, having a chance to learn from a guy like that every single day, I say has been huge and monumental for the success that I've had. And he's been great to my family.
Devin, it's already a fun league, but what was y'all's reaction to hearing that Texas and Oklahoma will be joining the league even a year sooner than expected, soon as next season?
To be honest with you, we didn't even talk about it. We're so focused and locked in on trying to make ourselves better and continue to improve this season that we haven't even talked about it. Now, have the guys read up on it or saw it on social media? Probably so, because this generation's always on social media. But have we talked about it as a team or individually as a group? No, we haven't. We've just been locked in and focused on trying to become 1-0 on Saturday.
I'll ask it this way. Is there something to be said about having a rivalry that's 100 miles apart as opposed to 1,000 miles apart or a few hundred miles apart?
To our,
Texas and A&M.
I would say to our guys, no. Our guys, like I was telling Olin earlier, our guys they're not getting up for any specific game. Every game to our guys are the same, and they're going into each one of them the same way. And so, the rivalry between LSU and then in a couple years, the rivalry between Texas, maybe ask me that question or Coach Buzz that question when that starts. But right now, man, we're so focused on trying to be the best we can be to be 1-0 at about 9:30 tomorrow night. So,
Coach, so last game, couple bit in the game against Kentucky, you got Shwebway, and then you got this past game against Broome. Kind of some of the bigger men in the SEC again. I don't say giving y'all problems, but like some that y'all had to adjust during the game. Has there been any adjustments, especially against this game coming up against LSU? Y'all play two big men who are, pretty bigger than anyone you'll have on the team. Has there been any adjustments at practice, film room, locker room for the rest of the season about how y'all going to better prepare against like some of the better big men in the SEC?
Yeah, that's a great question. Number 20 from LSU and number 12 are really, really good. And if you remember the first time we played LSU, 20 wasn't as aggressive offensively. And now if you look at him the last 3 games, he's averaging 17 and 6. Very aggressive. And so that's a great question. Do we go about it any differently? I would say no, but we bring attention to those guys. And you're right, number 4 from Auburn is a really, really good player. And so we make sure our defensive schemes for post defenders are sharp going into the game. Do we practice it? Yes, we do. We bring attention to it. Number 12 from LSU is really, really good. And if you remember the first time we played him, he was getting talks for the player of the year in our league. It's not like he got any worse. He's still that good. And so, we focus on it. We bring attention to specific guys. Do we change our post defense? No, we just bring more attention to it at practice and try to sharpen it for the game.
All right, that cover it? All right, thanks, Devin.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.